So not only is telepathy, thought transmission, and mental influence possible, we're doing it all the time, consciously or subconsciously, as we're always imagining how we relate with others and how they relate with us, resulting in them appearing accordingly. And this is why I recommend, when applying what one may refer to as not so commonly known or understood matters of consciousness, that you keep a log of your personal experiences. That way, you can find your own ways to work with the unseen aspects of consciousness, not yet made visible to the current 5 sensory instruments of measure. Now, keeping with the theme of Sunday's conversation, where we discussed telepathy and thought transmission from Neville Goddard's book, Prayer, the Art of Believing, I thought it'd be good to revisit Practical Mental Influence by William Walker Atkinson. So what we desire to do, provided you desire to do it, is to bring about desirable experiences with others, which in the case of thought transmission could be clients for your business, friends, or any other form of ideally mutually harmonious relationship. Upon practice of what is being discussed here, thought transmission, telepathy, and mental influence becomes ideally automatic. And by that I mean done, although first consciously, it becomes subconscious in a desirable way. So over the years, we've discussed many stories where people appear repeating the same thoughts and sharing the same interests. We also went into a very detailed example in Sunday's video involving a number of people. If you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description to it. Now, I'm away this week in Mexico, and as many of you know, I go to Playa del Carmen, Mexico a lot. And I've been here many times. And every time I'm here, I tend to meet new people. There are always expats arriving and leaving here each day. Some stay for weeks, months, and sometimes longer. So you tend to meet a lot of people here from all over the world. Now, I've been going to Mexico since 2011. And it's interesting to connect with some of the people I've met before, as they always still say the same things or are interested in the same things I'm imagining at that time, proving that as you change within, others appear changed without. And no matter how far I go off the path of, let's say, conventional ways of thinking, people still appear sharing the same interests. For example, I was here one time and I met someone, and during that time I was studying the work very deeply of Rudolf Steiner. And it turns out that she ends up being an early childhood teacher at the school in the area that was built on the Waldorf philosophy of Rudolf Steiner, called the, and let's see if I'm pronouncing this right, Achlum Waldorf Community. So her and I happened to connect back on this trip, and we got to speak about the views of the effects of imagination on biology, which is a topic I think about often these days. It was interesting that she came to the same conclusions on the ideas I had, which I never shared with anyone before. What I find here is that, and actually everywhere, people show up saying the same things I'm consciously imagining. And the key is not forcing it to happen or convincing anyone, rather allowing it to happen by remaining self-persuaded on specific viewpoints. William Walker Atkinson says, thought waves have the property of awakening similar vibrations in the mind of other persons coming within their field of force according to the laws of mental induction. So what is mental induction as he defines it? He says, orators, actors, preachers, and teachers send forth strong mental currents which tend to produce mental conditions on the part of their hearers corresponding to the feeling held by the mind of the speaker. Also equally true, being far removed from the space, without knowledge or intent, although sometimes, in the case of one who understands the principle, with full knowledge and intent. So mental currents are the thoughts being transmitted, as mentioned, occurring all the time, whether one is aware they are doing it or not. What I'd like to propose here is being intentional about it in a way that facilitates ideal harmonious relationships. I get many messages from those that speak about how their views on life have changed, and they seem to have challenges meeting new people who match their views. Upon reflection, it is found that they believe that the more distinctly they think, the more they believe people won't understand them. And sure enough, this becomes their experiences of life as others appear reflecting their beliefs. So I share with them what I believe, which is that there are many people out there that think the way that I do, no matter how I think, and no matter how my viewpoints may change. I'm surrounded by those who appear saying the same things I imagine, and it is genuinely the same things they desire to talk about. This belief reflects as the phenomena, where I say people show up saying the same things I imagine, even if I change what I imagine, as to believe otherwise is to experience otherwise. Now, earnest concentration on a single mental image of how you'd like it to be releases identification to all conflicting beliefs to that mental image. And it is the mental image you hold of yourself in relation with others that results accordingly as appearances of thought transmission, telepathy, and mental influence. Which is why he emphasizes the importance of concentration, indicating, as he says, the masters have ever impressed upon their pupils the importance and necessity of acquiring the power of mental concentration. All of this hidden phenomena is caused this way, and all of this power depends upon it. Therefore, the student of mental influence should devote much thought, time, and practice to this important branch of the subject. So for many years, and we've been discussing now for 10 years on this channel, I always emphasize the importance of committing to a goal, vision, or definite chief aim, and seeing it all the way through till completion, which can be your creative expression, career, or entrepreneurial endeavor, or any project you'd like. This is the way I have developed and teach mental concentration, through creative expression. Also synchronistically to what her and I were talking about, and so how meta that she would appear to contribute to this conversation, was we discussed Rudolf Steiner's backwards review process, which is also a great way to practice mental concentration, where at night before going to bed, play out the events backwards as far as you can to the start of the day. For example, imagine getting into bed. Prior to that, what were you doing? Prior to that, what were you doing? This doesn't mean imagining yourself walking backwards. It means reviewing your day backwards, very similar to the Neville Goddard revision process. Only here you are reviewing the day as a practice. And in any form of mental concentration practice, do not be discouraged if your attention wanders. Bring it back and it gets easier and easier. You can practice mental concentration by keeping your attention on anything for an extended period of time. And as you develop your ability to concentrate, you'll find it easier to hold a mental image of a person or in general of how you would like to relate with people in a way you would consider ideal, to leave an impression on the subconscious mind, anywhere you are, by which the unseen power of your subconscious takes care of the rest, like mental influence, telepathy, or any mental phenomena called upon to bring about others with the same related thoughts. William Walker Atkinson has this to say about mental concentration. He says, mental concentration in practice consists in focusing the mind upon a given subject or object firmly and fixedly, and then holding it there for a certain time, fully intent upon its object and not allowing itself to be diverted or attracted from its object. It likewise consists in the correlative power of then detaching the mind from that subject or object and either allowing it to rest or either focusing it upon another object. In other words, it either gives undivided attention or else inhibits or shuts off attention from given subject or object. Many people allow their minds to concentrate involuntarily upon whatever may strike their fancy, and forgetting everything else, they give themselves to the object attracting their attention for the moment, often neglecting duties and important interests, and becoming daydreamers instead of firm thinkers. This involuntary concentration is a thing to be avoided, for it is the allowing of the attention to escape the control of the will. The mental concentration of the practitioner is a very different thing. It is solely in control of the will, being applied when desirable and taken off or inhibited when desirable. The trained practitioner will concentrate upon a subject or object with a wonderful intensity, seemingly completely absorbed in the subject or object before them, and oblivious to all else in the world. And yet, the task accomplished, or the given time expired, they detach their mind from the object and will be perfectly fresh, watchful, and wide awake to the next matter before them. The secret of mental concentration lies in the control of the attention, and the control of the attention lies in the exercise of the will. So, the human will holds the imaginal scene that implies reality being a certain way until it has an impression upon the subconscious mind, through which it is handed over to the power of the subconscious mind. Thus, to consciously apply the law effectively, human will is developed to the degree where a firm impression can be made upon the subconscious mind. Matthew 18:19. Again, truly I tell you that if two of you on earth agree upon anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. Who are these two? They stand for the harmonious union or agreement between the conscious and subconscious aspect of mind on the mental image. So why does a person's attention drift from remaining on what is relevant? And by that I mean, why does one consciously leave an ideal impression on the subconscious mind, then proceed to leave conflicting impressions to that ideal impression on the subconscious mind, generating confusing life experiences with others? Well, because they have not purified the mind from the conflicting beliefs that result in attention drifting. To do so, I recommend self-talk in a way we recently discussed through the 14 language patterns from the Robert Dilts book, Sleight of Mouth. These language patterns are easy to apply to facilitate the release of identification to hand-chosen beliefs that are not ideal for deliberate thought transmission. And they speak to the subconscious mind in a way where past undesirable beliefs are not reactivated, and by that I mean not triggered, while identification to them are also released at the same time. I'll link in the description to the video. I trust you'll find that to be helpful. So another way of practicing mental concentration, William Walker Atkinson shares here. He says, the pupil is to examine some familiar object and endeavor to see as many details as possible in the object. Then after hearing the pupil's report, they send them back to the task, bidding them seek for new details, and so on, until at last the pupil has discovered about all concerning the object that can be discovered. The next day, a new object is given, and the process is repeated. First simple objects are given, and then more complex ones, until the last objects of great complexity are easily mastered. In this way, not only is the power of close observation highly developed, but the faculty of attention becomes so highly strengthened that the pupil is able to exert the greatest amount of mental concentration with scarcely the consciousness of effort. And such a person then becomes a very giant in the manifestation of mental influence, for they're able to hold their mind one-pointed. Again, not done from a place of mental strain or force, but rather with lightheartedness. Again, Matthew 18:19. Truly I tell you that if two of you on earth agree upon anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. The harmonious union or agreement between the conscious and subconscious, feeling what you imagine as real, like that's the way it is. He says, among the practices imposed upon their pupils by the masters may be named mathematics, drawing, analysis, etc. You will readily see why this is. To begin with, mathematics requires the undivided attention of the student. Unless he concentrates upon his examples, he will not be able to work out their solution. So here we see the importance of any form of practice of mental concentration. It allows you to remain in your ideal state of consciousness, unswayed by past beliefs in relation to appearances, purifying the mind of them in the process. I also recommend my flow-based life series, which demonstrates that you can practice mental concentration in whatever area of your life you enjoy, where you can reap the benefits from whatever form of creative expression while you practice cultivating mental concentration. Also in relation to mental influence, by keeping your attention on what you consider ideal with the intention of calling forth others who are in harmony with it via thought transmission through this one-pointed concentration. He says, the person who uses mental influence must certainly possess the power of focusing the force to a common point in order to manifest the greatest amount of power and influence. And that faculty of focusing results from the training of the mind along the lines of concentration. And concentration arises from the mastery of voluntary attention. So there you have the whole matter in a nutshell. Your first step toward acquiring mental influence should be to cultivate voluntary attention. So now you've heard me mention many times that where your attention goes, your energy flows. Another way of saying this is where your attention goes, that reveals what you are imagining. Thus, it's important to operate from an awakened imagination. And by that I mean deliberate with your attention. This brings you to a point where your attention is automatically oriented, ideally, to whatever area you've consciously chosen. So now let's talk about mental imaging. This is what facilitates thought transmission and telepathy, or appearances of mental influence. Through mental imaging, you imagine people appearing the way you consciously imagine, and they appear that way. He says, what is known as a mental image is the mental creation in the imagination of a picture of the things, events, or conditions that one desires to be manifested or materialized in actual effect. The practitioner first builds up, in their imagination, a mental image or picture of the conditions they wish to bring about. The practitioner manifesting the greatest degree of mental influence acquire by practice this art of creating mental images of that which they wish to materialize. They see the desired thing or event as actually existing in their minds before they attempt to concentrate their thought waves upon the task of accomplishment. Then the mental picture being completed and standing in strong outline, they focus their mental force through it, which is intention. I intend to meet people like this. That's the intention behind the mental image. He says, just as in the case of the magic lantern before referred to, and lo, the picture is reproduced on the screen of mentality of other people. So when it comes to intention, we can say obviousness of the intention. It means I intend for this to happen. Of course it's going to happen. Like that's the way it is. This is a result of, as I mentioned earlier, keeping your own log of personal experience. Through the repetition of proving it in equation, you'll find it easier to accept the suggestion. So in summary, imagine others showing up and relating with you in an ideal way until you feel that impression has been made upon the subconscious mind, feeling as real, like that's the way it is. And do it as applicable till it becomes natural to experience your ideal way of life. Also, ensure that you're not allowing impressions upon the subconscious mind that conflict with what you are ideally imagining. This is easier when you allow your attention to lightheartedly remain, or concentration, remain, on what you consider ideal by practicing anything that develops your ability to concentrate. And also keeping a journal, as mentioned, or a log of where others have appeared, showing up, saying the same things you consciously imagine, or related conscious phenomena, to purify the mind from any other way of thinking, thus automatically allowing your attention to remain on what is ideal, allowing others to appear that way in a mutually harmonious way. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, everywhere I go, others appear to reflect all that I consider ideal in mutually harmonious relationships. As I am now remaining in my ideal state of consciousness, so do they remain appearing that way as ideal harmonious relationships. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.